Part 1. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Yuan. When Yuan opened her eyes, she was lying on the unknown ground, and the pain all over her body made her think. She moved her hands, but she was not dead. To be precise, her soul was not dead. Yuan twitched the corner of her mouth bitterly. She had retired and returned home after her career as an agent. She was planning to go back and spend time with her elderly parents. Unexpectedly, the car suddenly exploded on the way home. When she opened her eyes again, she was here. Coincidentally, the name of the owner of the body her soul lives in is the same as hers, Yuan, who is 9 years old this year. The comedy is that this body once lived with a girl from the same place as her. Her name is Yuan, and she is a famous star and beauty. Came here because of an accident. This girl has been here for 4 years and can't stand everything here. It was poor here, there was no modern equipment, and no one would hold her in their hands and feel pain. Instead, he didn't have enough to eat or wear or keep warm every day. If he didn't work, he would be beaten and scolded by the best family members. Yuan couldn't stand such a life, so she simply broke the rules and refused to do whatever she was told. Of course, she would inevitably get beaten. Once, she carried her beaten little body up the mountain to find some food. When she went up the mountain, she was lucky enough to find a kind of berry. She was excited for a moment and unconsciously speeded up her steps. Unexpectedly, she kicked a stone with her foot, lost her balance, and fell down. The thorns on the ground pricked her wrist, and the blood that flowed out was sucked up by the broken silver bracelet on her wrist. When the bracelet was full, she realized that the broken silver bracelet on her wrist was actually the legendary space. This made her extremely excited. When she entered the space, she saw that it was exactly as in the legend. There was a spiritual spring, a spiritual field, and an unknown elixir and fruit tree in the spiritual field. Precious medicinal materials such as ginseng and Ganoderma lucidum are the most common and least valuable things in space. There is also a wooden house in the space, which is equipped with all women's supplies, and even has the skill Starju. From then on, Yuan no longer cared about her wonderful family. She is away from home every day, and of course no one pays attention to her. If she is more, she will not be more, and if she is less, no one will pay attention to her. No one pays attention to her whether she is dead or alive. This just made it possible for Yuan to make a living by hunting in the mountains during the day, and practice the star art in space at night. Perhaps Yuan really has a talent for cultivation and reached the first level of star art after a month. Her strength became stronger, her ears and eyesight became sharper, and she was as light as a swallow when she ran and jumped. At this time, Yuan felt swollen and thought that she was a capable person and she had no one to fear, so she returned home. Although Yuan's family is a top-notch family, the Yu family is a big family. In this ancient world, farmers work in the fields during the day and in bed at night, and every family has a litter of babies. The head of the Yu family, Yu Zhenfu, the head of the Yu family, is 20 years old this year, and Yu Yang, the wife, is 50 years old this year. This Yu Yang family is famous for being bitter and pungent in the villages around 10 miles away. After marrying Lao Yutu, who could read a few words, she gave birth to a litter of sons one after another, 6 sons and an old daughter. Yuan's father is the third eldest child in the family, and her mother is a woman her father picked up while hunting in the mountains. After that, her mother married her father, and her mother also suffered many hardships. She gave birth to 3 sons, then she gave birth to a pair of twins, and finally a younger son. Yuan clicked her tongue a few times. Was this family born to pigs in their previous lives? So capable. Yuan's uncle, Yu Das Han, is 35 years old this year. He is a very honest and humble farmer. He is married to Yuan from Wangjia village next door and has 2 sons and 2 daughters. The eldest, Yu Hadong, is 18 years old, and the second oldest, Yu Hanan, is 16. They both attend private schools in the town and are preparing to take the scholar examination next year. Of course, they are already children. The third child, Yu Fang, is 14 years old, and the fourth child, Yu Mei, is 10 years old. The second uncle, Yu Dehee, is 32 years old this year. He is cold-blooded and most cunning. Married the daughter of Wu, who owns a shop in the town. They have been married for 16 years and have 3 sons and 2 daughters. The eldest son Yu Hoxi is 15 years old, the eldest daughter Yu Zhu is 13 years old, the second son Yu Hobei is 10 years old, and the second daughter Yu Lan is 8 years old, and her youngest son Yu Hejia is 6. Only Yu Hoxi is preparing to take the scholar exam next year with his cousin. Yu Wan'er's father, Yu Dehai, is 31 years old. He is weak and timid by nature, but he is very good at hunting. Her mother-in-law, Feng Shi, the eldest Yu Hairan is 13 years old, the second Yu Hao is 12 years old, the third Yu Haoshan is 10 years old, Yu Wan is 9 years old, the fifth Yu Haoang is 7 years old, the sixth Yu Yao is 7 years old, and the seventh Yu Haoun is 3 years old. The fourth uncle, Yu Dejiang, was 27 years old. His temperament was inherited from the Yu Yang family. He married the Lu family and had 2 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest son Yu Haoshan was 8 years old, his daughter Yu Xiu was 6 years old, and his youngest son Yu Haolan was 4 years old. The fifth uncle, Yu Dadi, was 24 years old and had the same temperament as Lao Yutu, tepid. Married to Mrs. Zhao, her eldest son Yu Hoping is 5 years old, and her youngest daughter Yu Ying is 2 years old. Sixth uncle Yu Dehu is 20 years old. He is the most upright person among the brothers and sisters. He is also preparing to take the scholar examination next year. He only has 1 son, Yu Heshan, who is less than 1 year old. Sister-in-law Yu Bao'er is 14 years old this year and is raised like jewels by Lao Yu and his wife. The most aggressive, arrogant, and domineering, with delicate features, she is a rare beauty. In fact, everyone in the Yu family is good looking. Old Yu is in his 50s, but he is still tall and strong, with handsome features. Although Mrs. Yu Yang is fierce and sarcastic, she is delicate. After Yu Wan'er returned, the first person to be dealt with was her sister-in-law Yu Bao'er. This young lady treats all the younger members of the family as maids, and the most dissatisfied is Yu Wan'er's small appearance. Although she is not that big, she has already become a beautiful woman. Just like her mother, she is a grown-up beauty. So Yu Bao'er was able to manipulate her vigorously, but if she made any mistake, she would be beaten until her nose was bruised and her face was swollen. Ms. Feng didn't like to talk much, and she had an uncontroversial temper. She looked at everything as if it didn't matter. Even her children seemed to have no ripples in her heart. The child was full, hungry, cold, or hot, or beaten, but she still had that dead face. But he didn't care. Yu Dehai was a dumpling, and he didn't dare to say anything. It is natural for a family to be bullied. Of course, Yu Bao'er, who was avenged, finally lay on the bed with almost half his life gone. The consequences were very serious. Yu Yang immediately summoned his 6 sons to catch Yu Wan'er. Yu Wan'er would definitely not sit still and wait for death, and ran to the mountains desperately. But she was still a child after all, and she was almost caught several times. In the end, she ran into the mountains in a panic, missed her footing, and fell into this underground pit. When she woke up, she was Yu Wan. Hey, Yu Wan let out a long sigh. People outside are probably still looking for her. How can she play this bad hand? But the most important thing at the moment is to heal her injuries. She raised her left hand with great effort and saw that the broken bracelet was still there. She had to try to see if the space was still there. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 2. Chapter 2, Going Down the Mountain. Yuan silently recited enter according to Yuan's method of entering the space. She was dizzy, and she indeed appeared in a warm place full of medicinal fragrance. She closed her eyes, and the direction of the spiritual spring appeared clearly in her mind. She used her right arm to slowly move towards the spiritual spring. Yuan moved to the spiritual spring, lay down by the spring and drank a few sips directly with her mouth. She rested for a while before drinking again. She was mainly thirsty and hungry. Sure enough, as soon as the sweet spring water entered the entrance, the body was warmed immediately, the body no longer hurt, and the wounds and broken bones were slowly healing. Yuan was pleasantly surprised. Fortunately, this treasure was not taken away by Yuan, otherwise she would have suffered a huge loss. She took the opportunity to practice the star art in her memory. After about half an hour, all her injuries were healed. Her body felt extremely refreshed and her whole body was full of strength. She simply spread out her fists and kicks and started practicing the fist and kick skills from her previous life. Not to mention, the power exerted by this small body is much stronger than that of the previous life, and it is very smooth, without any sense of stagnation. After Yuan thanked Yuan in her heart, she moved around the space. It was the same as in her memory. The space was about 100 acres in size and filled with unknown elixirs. She pulled out a ginseng root and saw that it had been as thick as her arm for at least 1,000 years and had become human-shaped. She held the ginseng carefully, walked into the wooden house, and placed it gently on the table. Yuan sat on a wooden chair and looked at the wooden house. There was a wooden bed with everything on it. She touched the quilt, which was soft and warm like silk. She thought it must be very comfortable to cover it. She looked at the rags on her body and thought, forget it, she would clean it up before going to sleep. The color is my favorite purple, the purple sand tent, purple sheets and purple pillows all have the phoenix, the king of birds, on them. Then there was a wardrobe. Yuan opened it and saw colorful dresses. She touched the materials, and they all looked like silk, the same material as the quilt. There was also a desk and a bookcase. She opened the bookcase and found some books inside. Obviously Yuan had not read them, otherwise she had no memory of these books in her mind. Yuan was hungry after looking at the wooden house. She took out the barbecue Yuan left in the space and ate it. When she took a bite, she almost vomited. What kind of barbecue is this? It has no salt and is half cooked. She was also drunk. It was really not easy for a person who was not diligent in her limbs and could not distinguish between grains and grains to live here for 4 years. She had to eat only a few fruits. Not to mention, after eating these fruits, her stomach would be full. Yuan lay in the space, searching for Yuan's memory again, for fear of revealing something. The most profound memory in Yuan's mind was of being beaten and scolded every day before she was 5 years old. Since Yuan arrived, this girl's temperament has changed overnight. She dares to speak loudly, dare to criticize others, and dare to do things that Yuan never dared to do before. After all, she is a person who is used to being admired by many stars. How can she bear it? No matter how she resists, no matter how patient she is, she will never be able to her. In her memory, this place is called Dian Dynasty, Qinglian Town, Yujia Village, and the country's surname is Feng. Feng, Yuan was a little surprised, Feng's surname was Feng. Except for the royal family, there are very few people with this surname. She hoped it was not what she thought. Feng's behavior is so weird. Except for the mentally retarded, there is probably no mother in the world who can do Feng's level. Yuan doesn't want to think about Feng's affairs first. She has to find a way to get up and then return to Yu's house. In the Chu dynasty, a person's family background is very important. If you want to survive here, you can't do without the Yu family for the time being. The Chu dynasty had strict laws and emphasized filial piety, agriculture, and imperial examinations. Yuan still understands these things, and so many people in the Yu family who are studying are familiar with them. Yuan is very surprised why her three brothers don't study. In this era, everything is inferior, but studying is the only way to be high. The only way out for mud-legged people is to read. Why don't they read? Are they unable to afford it, or are they not allowed to do so, or are they simply unwilling? It's a pity that Yuaner was only 5 years old when she passed by, and she didn't have many memories of the original owner. Moreover, she didn't like talking to her three brothers. She didn't know the reason. She could only leave this to be verified after she left here. Yuan came out of the space, and she looked at the deep pit. It was like that pit. There was no way out from below, so she had to climb up. The cave wall was covered with weeds. Yuan pulled off a handful and grabbed the soil with her hands. It was not very soft. She looked up, but there was no support point for climbing. It was impossible to climb up in this situation. Yuan entered the space and searched under the bookcase. She really found 2 daggers, one long and one short. There is no way out. She found some space, stuck the dagger the wall of the pit, and shook the dagger hard, but it was still firm. Then she inserted another dagger in and hung herself on the dagger. The dagger did not loosen. Seeing that the 2 daggers could fully bear his own weight, she decided to climb up like this. Yuan used these 2 daggers to slowly climb up. As an awesome agent, you must be good at climbing rocks and walls, hiking in deserts, and fighting wild wolves with bare hands. So this is not a problem for Yuan. An hour and a half later, Yuan climbed out of the pit with a groan. She fell down on the grass. She was so tired that her arms were finally freed. They were so weak and painful that she needed to rest first. Since I came up, I have to think of a way to get over this level when I go back. I will beat up the princess at home. That tigress, oh, if I don't beat her to death, her surname will not be Yu. Yuan's mind was spinning rapidly. What is the most attractive thing that can make people shut up? She didn't have any money. Oh, by the way, Yuan snapped her right fingers and said, "Ouch, mother, it hurts." She had forgotten that her hand was still hurting. When she spread her hand, the 1,000-year-old ginseng plant appeared in her hand. Hiss, the pain of holding the ginseng made her grin. Yes, just use this thing. I think the tigress will spare her for the sake of money. Yuan gathered a few handfuls of grass on the spot, wrapped them carefully, and went down the mountain along the path in her memory. As she walked, she remembered that it had only been a day since she fell into the pit. How could all the injuries on her body be healed? There was no way. She still had to use the bitter trick. Her hands were no longer needed, and her clothes were already in tatters and stained with blood. She picked up the branches and sharpened them, closed her eyes, and endured the scratches on her legs and on her face that were within reach. Anyway, she has spiritual spring water, so she can feel good whenever she wants. When it looked like what was going on, Yuan went down the mountain holding the ginseng in her arms. In my memory, the Yu family is at the foot of this mountain, and the village is called Yujia village. There are about 300 households in the village, and most of them are named Yu. It is considered a big village and a big family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Reasons for Losing Money and Avoiding Disasters. Yuan stood at the intersection going down the mountain, with the entire Yujia village in front of her eyes. Yujia village is backed by the Green Mountains. There is a river in front of the village, and the river is surrounded by fertile fields. At this time, the rice in the fields is almost mature, and you can see the golden fields. There is a bridge over the river that leads directly to the outside of the village. Most of the villages are thatched houses, with only a few tiled houses located unevenly at the foot of the mountain. It was noon at this time, and smoke was rising from the roofs of every house, and her house was no exception. Standing here, you could still hear the tigress beating and scolding, and the cries of children. Yuan went down the mountain quickly, making herself feel as if she was panting from rolling up and down. She ran to the back door. At this moment, the tigress was still cursing people. You are short-lived. You were reborn as a starving ghost. You dare to eat what I left for your sister. I didn't beat you to death today, you are lucky. Yuan took a deep breath. This tigress was so inhumane. She recognized that the crying sounds were the twins of the original owner. She ducked into the hiding place, entered the space, put away the 1,000-year-old ginseng, and then searched the ginseng field. She found a ginseng that was more than 100 years old, wrapped it in grass, and then stepped out of the space. I originally wanted to give them 1,000-year-old ginseng, but now it seems that it is really not worth it. Even 100-year-old ginseng is not worth it. Unfortunately, she does not have any lower-year-old ginseng in her space. Yuan pushed the door open and shouted loudly, "Milk, milk, hurry up, look what is this." Yu Yang, who was scolding her enthusiastically, saw an unkempt girl holding a pile of grass and shouting and crying. A closer look revealed that it was the dead girl from the third room. Just when I was about to settle a score with her, it was a good thing that the dead girl showed up at my door. She picked up a broom and rushed towards Yuan. When Yuan saw it, she realized that this tigress was really going to beat her to death. She quickly put the grass in her hands on the ground, pulled out the ginseng, held it high and shouted, "Milk, milk, don't beat her, you'll break the baby, it's worthless. Master, master, come out quickly, the milk is going to break, baby." She shouted with such a voice that Yu Yang stopped and pointed at Yuan. "You bastard, how dare you fool me with this piece of shit? If I don't beat you to death today, you will beat your little girl. I haven't settled the accounts with you yet." With that said, Yu Yang raised the broom and hit Yuan again. At this moment, a loud roar of "Stop, put down the broom" shocked Yu Yang. As soon as Yuan saw the person coming, she quickly howled, "Master, master, look at this thing, I paid for it with my life." Such a big commotion has already caused people in each house to come out. It has not yet come to harvest time. Except for the people studying in the town, everyone in each house heard the sound and came out. Everyone stared curiously at the thing in Yuan's hand. Only her second uncle had sharp eyes and exclaimed, "Ginseng, yes, it's ginseng." Then he stared at the ginseng greedily, wanting to put it in his pocket. Inside, Ms. Feng was also standing at the door holding Xiao Qi, but when she saw her child and the ginseng, she didn't even raise her eyelids. Lao Yutu walked a few steps quickly, pulled away from Yu Yang, and carefully took the ginseng and looked left and right. "Well, not bad, it is indeed the best century-old ginseng." "Fourth girl, get up quickly." "Sir, my fourth son didn't dare to get up. He hurt my sister-in-law yesterday. It was unintentional. My sister-in-law was really angry. My sister-in-law always bullied and beat the people in our third room." "Master, you are still here. Our third room's people are here. If you do something bad, you should be taught by your parents. I beg you to forgive Xiao Seer and never do it again." After saying that, she really kowtowed to the old man. The look was really miserable. Yuan knew that she would not be kind if she didn't do something fierce today. Of course, Yu Bao'er must be given eye drops. Old Yu is a smart man, and he probably doesn't want the villagers to say that old Yu is an unfair person with no family education. I still have sons and grandsons who want to take the scholar examination. How can I ruin my reputation? The reputation here is really worth living. Sure enough, Lao Yu's face darkened, and he looked at his daughter's room. Seeing that her daughter didn't get up and make trouble, he must have heard what Xiao Sier said. Then he said, "Get up. Just don't be a fan anymore. I forgive you, and I won't hit you again." Old Yatu took the ginseng and turned back to the house. He glared at Ms. Yu Yang and said, "Don't hit people for no reason. They are also the blood of my Yu family. Please take care of them carefully. Lao Yatu is such a smart man. Old girls are rare, but not as rare as ginseng. This ginseng is not worth much money if sold. It's time to beat this old woman up. She always likes to take out her anger on the people in the third room every day no matter what happens. The people in the third room are weak and incompetent, but they are all good at work." Mr. Yu Yang threw away the broom. Today, she lost face by her old man, and she also lost face in front of her children and grandchildren. How will she take care of these wolf boys in the future? She glared at Yuan fiercely, "Little bitch, I'll let you go today. If I don't beat you to death next time, I'll just sell you and save my food to feed the pigs." Everyone in each room saw that the excitement was gone, so they all went back to their houses and continued to do whatever they were supposed to do. Yuan rubbed her forehead and walked up to the two little guys. "Xiao, Xiaoliu, get up quickly, the milk won't hit us anymore." She raised her voice to ensure that both Lao Yu and Yu Yang heard it. "The twins in front of me are 7 years old this year, and they look about 5 years old. An authentic little carrot head, with a sallow face and thin muscles, unkempt hair and ragged clothes, he looks like an African refugee." The two children timidly glanced at Grandma's house and said, "Fourth sister, is it true? Grandma won't beat us." Yuan felt sad. What kind of family is this? What kind of person is he? This is still a child, how could he do this? How can I bear it? The two children were kneeling here and being beaten, and no one came out to protect them. Yuan looked around coldly, then turned to the west wing. Feng stood at the door of the house with Xiao Qi in her arms. She had no expression at all and looked at the three siblings blankly. Yuan took Xiao and Xiaoliu up and knelt for too long. The children were small and weak, and both of them staggered. Yuan quickly held one hand up and let the two of them stand bent over and slow down a little. When the two children were a little better, Yuan entered the house. She passed by Feng, raised her head and said coldly to Feng, "Is your heart made of thousands of years of ice?" After saying that, Yuan entered a small room and found some clean clothes on the kong of the three brothers and sisters. Looking at this doghouse-like earthen bed, no matter how the winter passed, it was no wonder that Yuan had done everything in heaven and earth. It would be better to die than to live here. Coming out of the house, she passed by Feng. She was still staying there blankly. The only difference was that her eyes were darker, no, they were ashen, like a dead person who had lost all life. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Father and son are punished. Yuan didn't even glance at Feng, wasting her eyes. For such a mother, she didn't get the respect she deserved. In her memory, after Feng gave birth to several children, Yu Dahai basically did all the other things except nursing the children for several months. Yuan took Xiao and Xiaoliu to the small river in front of the village. The weather was hot now, so it wouldn't hurt to take a cold shower. "Fourth sister, where are we going?" Xiao Wu asked Yuan. "Go and take a bath in the river. After you are clean, the fourth sister will give you some fruit to eat." "Now we are too dirty." The three siblings were all about the same. They were so dirty that only their eyes could be seen turning. "Okay, fourth sister, let's go quickly." The two girls in turn pulled Yuan away, and Yuan couldn't laugh or cry. The three of them walked to the river. Yuan found a sheltered and shallow place, which happened to be blocked by a bush of asparagus. Yuan took the two little ones down, took off their dirty clothes, washed the two little ones' tattered clothes with the soap locust that came along, and then used the rags as a bath cloth to give them a bath. Of course, they must wash their butts themselves. The two are already shy at the age of 7. Yuan washed their hair and asked Xiaowu, do you want to study? Xiao didn't even think about it, and immediately replied, I think, fourth sister, Xiao dreams about it. Not only Xiao thinks about it, but also the eldest brother, the second brother, and the third brother. But Dad said, we are working, and studying is my cousin their business. Fourth sister, Xiaowu doesn't want to work all his life, Xiaowu wants to study. After Xiaowu finished speaking, he lowered his head and sipped lightly. Yuan hugged Xiaowu over, stroked his head, and said softly, Xiaowu, don't cry. Remember you are a man. You can shed blood but not tears. When the rice is harvested, next year the fourth sister will ask the eldest, second, and third brothers to return the rice. Everyone who has Xiao is going to study. Who will say that you are working in the future? The fourth sister is worried about them. Yuan really didn't expect that Yudahai was so cowardly that he was so cowardly. What kind of top-notch people are these two? She has no feelings for them, she is not the real Yuan, and she has no sympathy for them. As long as they don't touch her bottom line, she won't care. No matter who he is in the future, as long as he doesn't provoke her, she will still be very gentle. As long as one of them can be tough, these children will not live like beggars. Xiaowu immediately wiped away his tears and raised his eyes to look at Yuan. Really, fourth sister? Can we study? Of course, fourth sister will not only allow you to have books to study, but also have enough food to eat every day, clothing to wear, and land to farm. But you must also work hard and be a motivated person. Fourth sister does not expect you to all gain fame. At least be sensible and understand people's hearts, and be able to speak and write, at least you won't be deceived. Fourth sister, can Xiaoliu study? Xiaoliu asked Yuan seriously. Of course Xiaoliu can do it, but he can't go to private school, so he can just let his brothers teach him. Yeah, Xiaolu nodded happily. After her hair was washed and she had taken a shower, Yuan took the two little ones ashore to dry them, quickly put on their clothes, and straightened their hair with her hands. Yuan looked at Xiao and Xiaoliu's clean faces. They had handsome features and bright eyes that were as bright as stars. After taking care of it, I felt like a different person in an instant. Although the clothes are still worn out, he no longer looks like a beggar. As long as they are mended, he will definitely be a doll made of pink and jade. Yuan took out fruits from the space, one for each person. When the two children saw that she appeared like a magic trick, 2 fruits appeared, and they both opened their mouths in surprise. Hush, Xiao and Xiaoliu, this is a trick learned by the fourth sister. Do you know why the fourth sister doesn't come home often? That's because the fourth sister met the master in the mountains. He saw that the fourth sister was pitiful and smart, and then the master accepted me. As a disciple, I taught my fourth sister many things, including this magic trick. Another fruit appeared in Yuan's hand, and then suddenly disappeared. After changing it several times, the two children felt that there was nothing curious about it, so they took the fruit and started to chew it. Fourth sister, this fruit is delicious, the two young ladies said at the same time. Yuan smiled. Sure enough, it makes sense for twins to have telepathy. Don't worry, from now on the fourth sister will turn into fruit and give it to you to eat. Yuan touched the two little ones' hair and found that it was no longer dripping. The two children just nodded. They felt that the fourth sister today was very different. Usually the fourth sister did not like to go home and ignored them, but they felt that the fourth sister today was like their fourth sister. Yuan gave one to each other and told them to sit on the bank and wait for her. She went down to the river and took a quick bath. After washing, Yuan went ashore and sat down, took out some fruit to eat. After struggling all day long, she felt hungry, so she didn't even have to think about eating it when she went back. The three brothers and sisters dried their hair and tore it into strips with tattered clothes. Xiao tied it into a bun, and she and Xiaoliu tied it into a ponytail. "Let's go back," the two children responded happily. They were not hungry anymore, so they didn't have to worry about not having anything to eat when they went back. Yuan threw away the ragged clothes and walked back holding one by one. Going to the gate of the courtyard, from the outside, this courtyard is quite big, like a courtyard, just covered with thatch. The courtyard door is not strong either and can blow off if the wind is strong. Yuan pushed open the courtyard door. She had the urge to beat someone. There were 4 people kneeling in a row in the courtyard, from big to small, from tall to short. These 4 people are Udahai and his son, facing the upper room. In such hot weather, do you really want to kill them? There is no need to think that this is a Yu Yang-style masterpiece. Xiao and Xiaoliu, you two hurry up and call the village chief grandpa. When Xiao and Xiaoliu saw that it was their father and brothers, they ran to the village chief's house crying. It just so happened that the village chief was Lao Yutu's biological elder brother, so he asked him to come and see these top-notch products. Udahai obviously couldn't hold on any longer, and his body was swaying. Yu Hairan immediately supported him. Yuan rushed forward. "Dad, eldest brother, second brother, and third brother, have you committed some treasonous act? Are you kneeling here in the hot weather? Do you want your lives?" She took a look at the 4 men in front of her. They were as skinny as a stick, and their tattered clothes hung loosely on their bodies. Everyone's faces turned pale. Udahai was only 31 years old this year, but he looked as old as a 50-year-old man. The eldest, second, and third are obviously 13 or 14 years old, almost like 10 years old. The 3 brothers are not surprised by Yuan's behavior. She is always like this. There is nothing she dare not say and there is no one she dare not scold. If she can't beat him, she will dare to beat anyone. "Yuan, brother, come and put dad down. Second brother, go get a bowl of water. Third brother, go pick up the grandfather." Xiao Wu and Xiao Lu have already gone. The 3 of them immediately followed Xiao Sier's words, believing that she had the guts to do so. Sure enough, as soon as Mrs. Yu Yang in the main room heard the name of the village chief, she immediately jumped out, pointed at them and started to scold them. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Let's separate the family. Yuan really didn't want to hear this old woman curse, so she picked up a stone from the ground and flicked it at her mute point. Yu Yang's mouth opened wide and she was speechless. She pointed her finger at Yuan in horror, and Yuan said word by word, "If you dare to move your mouth or hands or feet again, I will make you paralyzed on the Kong for the rest of your life. If you don't believe me, try it. Your son has a lot of trouble today, and you don't have to live." Yu Yang heard Yuan's gloomy tone, and she suddenly felt cold on the soles of her feet. "It doesn't matter if you stand there, walk, or don't walk." By this time, Udahai had fainted. Yu Hairan brought water, and the 2 brothers held each other on one side. Yuan took the bowl, put some spiritual spring water in the bowl while they were not paying attention, and then fed Udahai to drink. Although Udahai fainted, he instinctively drank some water. "Come on, elder brother and second brother, drink some water quickly, be careful." The 2 of them leveled Udahai. They were indeed thirsty and hungry. The 2 brothers drank half a bowl of water in a few gulps. "As soon as I ate it, my stomach felt very comfortable, and I didn't have the uncomfortable feeling of stomachache caused by hunger before." The movement outside finally made everyone who was taking a nap come out. When I came out, I saw Mrs. Yu Yang winking and gesticulating in front of the main door, not knowing what she was doing. They all looked at the angry Yu Yang with confusion. "This is what old Yu saw when he came out. He also saw Yudahai lying on the ground, and hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Big boy, where is your father?" Yuhairan said cowardly, "Dad, he fainted." I said, "Grandma, you don't want our family to live, right?" They arrested Xiao and Xiaoliu in the morning, and at noon they got even more vigorous. Even my father knelt down. Did they kill people, set fire, or dig up ancestral graves? It's such a hot day that people are kneeling in rows under the sun, Yuan said unceremoniously. What are you talking about? You just want them to reflect on it. Old Yutu didn't feel confident at all after hearing what he said. Yuan was so angry. She looked sideways at Lao Yu, her whole body filled with cold air. "Master, reflect." "Reflect on what?" "Reflect on the lack of work, or reflect on the fact that being a cow and horse for you is not enough? Or do you eat too much at every meal? We wake up earlier than chickens every day, eat less than cats, go to bed later than dogs, and do the work of a large family, but our lives are not as good as those of human beings. Master, these are your sons and grandsons. Doesn't your heart hurt? Or do you mean you don't have a heart, or are you made of 10,000 years of ice?" "That's a good question, Xiao Sier, you understand life better than anyone else." A group of people walked in outside the courtyard gate, and in the middle was a man who looked similar to Lao Yutu, holding Xiao Liu's hand. The two young ladies rushed over immediately. "Fourth sister, we called for the uncle." "Good boy, you two, look at daddy." The two of them hummed and squatted next to Yudahai. Yuan stood up and said, "Grandpa, uncles, I have to trouble you today." The village chief nodded. "Don't worry, little Sier, I will do this for you today." "Thank you, uncle." She turned to Yuhairan and Yuhao and said, "Big brother and second brother carried dad into the main room." In rural areas, every family has a main room, which can be used as a dining room or a living room. "Second brother, what did you do?" Village chief Yu Zhengui asked the old Yu, who was in a daze. When Lao Yu saw that his elder brother had arrived, he was still thinking about what Yuan said. He touched his chest. Yes, it didn't hurt anymore, but why? Yuan took the opportunity to untie Yu Yang's mute point. When she saw the village chief coming, she immediately shouted, "Humph! What are you doing? I will teach my sons and grandsons a lesson." "What does it have to do with you?" Lao Yu frowned. This old woman was getting more and more outrageous. She didn't even look at who she was. She didn't even pay attention to her eldest brother, so she immediately yelled, "Shut up!" He turned back to the village chief. "Brother, let's go in first. It's hot outside, so it's not a big deal." The old woman said they didn't open up enough wasteland. "Humph! You know it's hot outside. It's not a big deal if the third child is unconscious. The fourth child is right. They are your sons and grandsons. Doesn't your heart hurt? You think you have too many sons, right? Let's move out of their third room. It just so happens that the third child doesn't have a son, and now there's no one in his room. If we adopt the third room, at least there will be someone who goes to the third room every year," the village chief said seriously. Everyone entered the main room and found Yudahai lying in the middle of the room. Yuan refused to lift her up on the bed. She just wanted Yudahai to wake up and take a look for herself. "Big boy, second baby, third baby, and fourth boy, what do you want today?" "Grandpa makes the decision for you," the village chief asked, sitting at the top of the main room, smoking a dry cigarette. At this time, the first, second, fourth, fifth, and even Yu Bao came. She wanted to speak several times, but Yu Yangshi covered her mouth. He just stared at Yuan hatefully, but Yuan just pretended not to see it. The three Yuhairan brothers dared not show their anger. They were more afraid of meeting Lao Yutu and Yu Yangshi than a mouse meeting a cat. They were afraid in their bones. When Yuan saw this, the fire in her heart was so high that it was frozen 3 feet in a day. "I swear there must be a result today, and I must get rid of this ruthless, cruel, and blood-sucking family. Yuan took a deep breath and tried to be calm. She sighed, Grandpa, you have also seen what my 3 brothers look like now. Today, the 4th son asked us to live alone as a family, otherwise we will break off this relationship. I don't treat Sanfang as a human being. Before Yuan could finish her words, Mrs. Yu Yang didn't remember to beat her and cursed loudly, you little bitch, you can die wherever you want by yourself. How dare you drag my son to sever the relationship with me, Demi is my mother's son in life, and my mother's ghost in death. Yuan finally suppressed the anger in her heart, and she said angrily, Grandpa, you saw it, this is our milk, a little with a mouthful, little hooves, I want to ask, what is my surname? What is my father's surname? I am a little bitch, little Huze, isn't she an old bitch, Lao Huze? She is disrespectful and unkind every day. I feel shameless even if I stay here for one more day. And my sister-in-law, who is not yet an adult, imitates me every day. My grandma said a lot of dirty words and was vicious. A village girl imitated others and played tricks on a maid. This maid was her own niece. She would make others laugh when she said it. Grandma also said that my 3 brothers and Xiao were all destined to work, and my cousin was. Studying is a destiny. Who approves it? It's so absolute. Yuan was so cold that everyone present couldn't help but shiver. Every person in the house felt like a fool after hearing this. No one dared to challenge the authority of Lao Yutu, Yu Yang, and Yu Bao'er, and only Yuan dared to do so. Some people are gloating in their hearts. Some people sighed inwardly, which made Yuan say something they didn't dare to say. There are also people who are indifferent and don't care about the matter. Lao Yutu glanced at Yu Yang and Yuan resentfully, then lowered his head and didn't know what he was thinking. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 Family Separation. The village chief was also furious when he heard this. He didn't usually feel it, but today he found out that it had become like this in the second son's house. He sighed heavily, second brother, I'm not talking about you. Look at what you've done. Do you really want to cut off the path of your son and grandson? You can't manage a family well and let your mother-in-law do whatever you want. He then said to Yuan, Xiao Sier, you are a good boy. Grandpa will give you 3 houses. You can live alone. Yuan can think about it and leave first. Grandpa, you can. I don't agree, go away yourself. Yu Yang jumped out again. At this time, Yu Dai said, Uncle, I'm afraid this is wrong. They all say that parents are here and they don't separate the family. If the 3rd child and his family are left, who will do the work? Let him do it, nice thought. Boss, what do you think? Do you also want the 3rd child and his family to make cows and horses for you so that your son can study? The village chief asked the boss Yu Das Han. Boss Yu did not speak, but Wang Yu said, Uncle, what are you talking about? We can't afford to make cows and horses for our son. Yes, Uncle, the 3rd child can do whatever he wants no matter how honest he is, he knows that the uncle is forcing him not to be a meat on the hob. His son really couldn't afford it? If he was selected as a scholar in the future, if word got out that someone would stab him in the back, how could he be able to survive as a scholar? Since we don't have any objections, let's leave it at that. Brother, please express your opinion. After the village chief said this, he glanced at Lao Yu's head. No one in the other houses dares to express their opinions at this moment, even the usually aggressive 4th son Yu Daijiang doesn't dare to fart. Lao Yutu felt uncomfortable. It turns out that the 3rd child's family is not as weak as he thought. And why are you asking the eldest brother after you have made a decision? Lao Yu looked at Yuan deeply. That's it? The family's farmland has 40 acres, and 8 acres will be given to the third child. The land. You have a good idea. If you want to go out, just leave. Don't even think about taking away a single hair from me. Yu Yang stopped working again and divided her fields and asked for more land without even thinking about it. If Mr. Yu Yang keeps yelling nonsense, get out of the Yu family, it's not your turn to take charge of the Yu family. The village chief slapped his hand heavily on the table and shouted angrily. The second daughter-in-law is getting more and more shameless, and even he can't make the decision, so that's okay. No one dares to challenge His Majesty as the village chief. Ga, Yu Yang's words were stuck in her throat before she finished speaking. When she came to her senses, she suddenly sat down on the ground and kept slapping her hands on the ground. Oh, you old man, I can't live anymore, I can't live anymore. I will give birth to children for your family. I will give you every time so that I'm going to die for all of them now. I can't live anymore, I can't live anymore. When old Yu saw Yu Yang's behavior again, he felt as if he had eaten a fly. He quickly said, Boss, wife, why don't you help your mother back to the house? He sat on the stool without moving his buttocks, and looked at Yu Yang with a look of disgust. The 4 daughters-in-law, Wang, Wu, Lu, and Zhao, quickly came into the house and helped and dragged Yu Yang out of the hall. The main room suddenly fell into silence, no one spoke. Grandpa, our family can clean up and leave the house, but the annual pension money will be waived. Grandpa, please write a note for us. Yuan had no choice but to speak out, otherwise the family would not be able to be separated today, which she did not want to see. As for the land, she would not give it to him if he did not give it to her, and she was eager to do so. She quickly winked at Yu Hairan and the 3 brothers to reassure them. The 3 brothers were scared to death, so how could they dare to say anything? Who would have the guts to challenge the Yu Yang family like her? She is the only one in the Yu family, not even Yu Bao'er has the courage. The 2 younger sisters listened to Yuan's words. They knew that the 4th sister could conjure food, and they were eager to leave now. As for Feng Shi and Yu Dahai, they are both background people. When the people in the other rooms heard that Yuan said she wanted nothing, some looked happy, while others looked a little sad. But no one dared or could say anything. Xiao Sier, you have to think clearly about what you and your family will eat out for. The village chief disagreed with Yuan's approach. Grandpa, don't worry, we can't starve to death even if we rely on the mountains to eat the mountains. The village chief took another long puff of cigarette. Okay, boss, bring out the pen and paper. The village chief didn't have anything to say, thinking about what Yu Yang did just now. Maybe we can find a way to survive if we go out. Although Xiao Sier is a girl, she dares to say and do things. He looked at the 3rd child's family, then at the other rooms, and just shook his head and sighed. The more sons the better in the countryside, but it's not like this. He couldn't understand why Mrs. Yu Yang disliked the 3rd child so much, and now it was becoming more and more excessive. The village chief wrote the family division deed and gave it to Lao Yutu to read. Yuan, Grandpa, let me take a look too. You kid, don't believe Grandpa. The village chief raised his head. Can the 4th child read? How can I not believe it, Grandpa? However, she still accepted the contract handed over by the village chief. It is clearly stated above that the 3rd son and his family can live alone without having to pay filial piety money every year. No one is allowed to interfere with the marriage of the children of the 3rd son's family under any pretext. It didn't indicate that it was an out-of-date gift. She knew that the village chief didn't write it on purpose. In short, it was beneficial to their 3rd wife. However, Yuan still remembered the sentiment and would definitely return it if she had the chance. The contract should be made in triplicate, with 1 copy for the village head, 1 for Lao Yutu, and 1 for the 3rd house owner, with each representative's fingerprints printed. The people from the 3rd room took Yu Dahai's hand and pressed it. Get out of here, Get out of here right away. Yu Yang ran to the door without coming in. Seeing that the matter was a foregone conclusion, she was so angry that she slapped her chest. Yuan sincerely thanked the village chief and all the uncles who came. Although she didn't know them well and they hadn't spoken a word to each other, she remembered their faces. Without their support here, no one in the Yu family would be able to earn a living, and it would be impossible for them to be separated smoothly. She asked the three brothers to carry Yu Dahai back to the west wing. At this time, Yu Dahai had woken up, but he was weak and could only cry silently. In the west wing room, everyone except the two little ones looked sad. Yuan took out some fruits and said, "You guys don't go anywhere while you stay at home. I'll go to town and I'll be back soon." They all nodded. It was probably around 4 o'clock now. There should be a pharmacy open in the town. She had to change money and find a place to stay before dark. Going to town, according to Yuan's footsteps, half an hour is enough. Yuan quickly went out and ran to the town along the path he remembered. Her physical strength couldn't keep up, so she drank a few sips of spiritual spring water and felt full of energy again. As expected, when she arrived in the town, there were still shops open on the streets. Now that the days are long, many people close their doors very late. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 Going to Town. Yuan didn't have time to look at this ancient building, so she quickly found a pharmacy and pulled out a 500-year-old ginseng plant in the space. The pharmacy in Yongantang was open and looked quite big. Yuan walked in and saw an old doctor consulting a doctor. Yuan stood aside and waited. A stick of incense passed by and the old doctor finished his work. Yuan stepped forward. She had no time to bargain and put the cloth bag directly on the table. "Doctor, this is the ginseng I just dug. Can you buy it in your store? If you want it, I will sell it if the price is right." The old doctor glanced at Yuan, then picked up the ginseng and looked at it calmly. "How about 2,500 taels? 2,500 taels, Yuan looked at the old doctor, a little surprised, thinking that anyone who gave 1,000 taels was conscientious. Looking at the old doctor again, she could feel that the old doctor had an aura of elegance, an aura that was different from that of a doctor, but it was clear that the old doctor had a medicinal fragrance that only comes from being immersed in medicinal materials for many years. Kind. This is not like the kind of people that should be in this small town, but Yuan doesn't care what kind of people they are. It is impossible to say that they are living in seclusion here. She can think about it. Okay, Yuan agreed readily. She took the banknote handed over by the old doctor and checked the quantity. She didn't know whether the banknote was genuine. After Yuan asked the old doctor to exchange 100 taels of silver notes in cash, she still asked, "Old doctor, are the banknotes from Dagon Bank universally accepted nationwide?" The old doctor nodded a little surprised and said, "Yes, it is the Royal Bank." Yuan thanked her and left Yong'an Hall. In Yong'an Hall, the old doctor changed his previous indifference and his eyes were filled with eagerness. He returned to the inner hall and with a wave of his hand, there was immediately a man in black clothes with a sword, who was obviously a secret guard. He cupped his hands and said, "Dr. Bai, what are your orders?" He took out the ginseng sold by Yuan, packed it in a fine golden Nanmu box and said, "Send this fast horse back to the capital to your master." After the secret guard took the wooden box, he disappeared. Dr. Bai took a long breath. This 500-year-old ginseng is not rare. What is rare is the rich vitality on it. I hope this ginseng can help that person. Hey, that man is also a poor person. Yuan came to the street. She only came here once in her memory. She only remembered the approximate route to the town, but she didn't know where to buy or sell things in the town. There are 4 streets in the town, neither too many nor too long. She might as well look at them one by one, as long as there is an inn. She walked into a street next to Yong'an Hall. At this time, there were only a few people on the street. There are several cloth shops on this street. Yuan walked into a ready-made clothing shop, and the proprietress was closing the shop. "Lady boss, I want to keep you a while I buy some ready-made clothes." The landlady frowned when she saw that she was a little girl. "Okay, you look first." She closed the door halfway. Yuan went straight up and picked out 2 sets of cotton clothes and pants for each person, and 2 pairs of shoes for each person. She could still tell the approximate sizes. In the end, Yuan spent 5 taels of silver to buy clothes. There were too many clothes. Seeing that the shop was closed today, a big customer came. He gave her a large piece of cloth and packed the clothes in one package. Yuan carried the cloth bag and said, "Thank you, boss lady," and then came out of the clothing store. The landlady said to Yuan in a friendly voice, "You're welcome, little girl, I'll come back next time and I'll give you a discount then." "I'll definitely come next time." Yuan saw that there were bed covers and quilts in the store, and the proprietress didn't look down on others. There was no one on the street, so Yuan turned to a corner and put the cloth bag into the space. "Haha, this is really convenient, absolutely the best tool for home robbery," Yuan muttered. Finally, she found an inn and stepped forward. "Little brother, can your inn still accommodate 9 people?" The second brother, who was cleaning the lobby, saw that she was a little girl and said angrily, "Yes, it's a lower class room." Yuan frowned. She saw that the shopkeeper was not there, so she asked the waiter, "Brother, where is your shopkeeper?" "I said you are a little girl, you look so poor, why are you looking for our shopkeeper? If you look for our shopkeeper, you can live in vain. Go, go, don't disturb me from my work." He came to catch up with Yuan. "Go out." "What are you doing, little Lioza?" A shout made the little Lioza stop. He said sarcastically, "Shopkeeper, this little girl wants to stay even though she has no money." "No, I will drive her away." The shopkeeper is about 40 years old. He is wearing a green gown and a pair of thin black cloth shoes. He has a square scarf on his head and his hair is in a scholar bun. He has a delicate face and looks like someone who has read a book. Yuan didn't say a word. She saw that the shopkeeper didn't look at her with contempt, but was very gentle. He stepped forward and asked, "Little girl, do you want to stay?" Yuan, "Well, there are 9 people in my family and we will stay there for a few days." "Yes, we have rooms in our store." Yuan thought for a while and said, "Can your store provide food?" The shopkeeper nodded, "Okay, I'll arrange for the kitchen to be cooked right away. You go and pick up your family." Yuan scratched her head in embarrassment. "Well, my parents are still in the village." "Does the shopkeeper have a carriage? Help me take it." After saying that, he took out 5 taels of silver and raised it in front of the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper didn't take the money. He said, "There is a carriage. I'll let the carriage go with you." After saying that, he turned around and went to the backyard. Yuan glanced at Xiao Liozi. This is a that looks down on people, little guy, your aunt's money will blind you." But the shopkeeper is pretty good, and people who have read books are different. "Oh, no, old Yutu's family doesn't have scholars either. It can only be said that 100 kinds of rice can feed 100 kinds of people." After a while, a carriage came out of the alley next to the inn. A middle-aged coachman cracked his whip. The carriage stopped at the door of the inn. The coachman said to Yuan, "Little girl, get in the carriage. Where is your home?" Seeing that the little girl was young, the coachman wanted to get a stool for Yuan to step on, but unexpectedly, Yuan lifted the door curtain and jumped up. The driver opened his mouth, "This little girl is so tough." After Yuan sat down, she said, "Uncle, my home is in Yujia village, not far away. The carriage will arrive with a stick of incense." "Oh, Yujiakan, I know, sit tight, Little girl. After saying a driving sound, the carriage started to move. Little girl, you live in the village, why do you come to stay at the inn? Asked the coachman. My parents are both sick, so it's convenient to come to town to see a doctor. Oh, the disease needs to be cured. Yuan, can you speak? Yes, if you are sick, you must take good care of it. With a little more than a stick of incense, the carriage arrived at the entrance of Yujia village. Yuan asked the carriage to turn around in the spacious area under the Yujia courtyard. She went up to pick up Yudahai and the others. Little girl, do you need help? The coachman chatted with Yuan all the way, as if he was very familiar with her. Yuan waved her hand and hurried back. When she walked into the west wing, Yudahai, who had already woken up, was just staring at the roof with his eyes blankly. Yu Heiran's brother and sister were relieved to see Yuan back. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Staying at the inn. Yuan curled her lips, as if she had left and would never come back. However, Yuan often behaved like this in her memory, and she felt relieved. She took her time, the days were long, and the future was long. Eldest brother, second brother, and third brother, please help Dad go to the carriage on the roadside below, and Xiao and Xiaolai will go. She turned to look at Fengxi, hugged Xiaoqi who was sleeping, and said to Fengxi, let's go. Yu Heiran and his three brothers helped Yudahai out, and Xiao and Xiaolai were extremely happy and followed them. Yuan came out with Xiaoqi in her arms. She didn't ask for anything, mainly because except for a few tattered clothes and a tattered quilt, the room was cleaner than her face. Feng followed Yuan out numbly. Every room in the Yu family had various expressions and thoughts when they saw the third room leaving. Only the second room member watched the third room leave with resentment. It would be their turn to work in the future. Yu Yang saw the expressions of the people in each room, and she yelled, go back to the house, look at whatever you want, the weird ones are all the same as them, get out of here with me. Mom, when the people from the third bedroom are gone, who will vent my anger in the future? Yu Bao'er pulled Yu Yangshi and said coquettishly. Oh, my dear, isn't this a movie about a girl with a big second bedroom? Why are you always staring at that in the third bedroom? No one is as good as her baby, who is beautiful, has a sweet mouth, and is filial. From now on, she will be a scholar's sister, and she will be a scholar's old aunt. If anyone marries her treasure, it will be smoke coming from his family's ancestral grave. Mrs. Yu Yang looked at her baby, no matter how beautiful it looked, she stroked Yu Bao's head with rare kindness, my baby is just beautiful. From now on, my mother will give you a rich family, and let my baby be a rich wife. Yu Bao threw herself into Mrs. Yu Yang's arms and smiled sweetly, Mom, I want to be the wife of an official, that's how majestic it will be. Okay, my mother, Bao, is very discerning. Next year, your sixth brother and your nephews will all be selected as scholar, and they will definitely find Bao an official wife, ha. Yuan didn't know that the two women started to have sweet dreams before it got dark. She walked out of the yard and looked back at the Yu family's old house. She felt inexplicably relaxed and felt as if something had escaped from her body. Yu Dahai and others got on the carriage, leaving only Yu Wanfan and Xiaoqi. Seeing that Yuan was holding a child, the driver quickly asked for help, come on, little girl, this is your brother. He's so cute. Come on, I'll help you get into the car. Yuan twitched her lips, and she glanced at Xiaoqi, who was sleeping in her arms. She was as thin as a monkey, and she couldn't be more cute no matter how she looked at it. However, she still asked the driver to hold Xiaoqi and hand her over to Yu Heiran in the car. Then he helped Feng into the carriage. Now there was no one in the carriage. Yuan took out the 5 taels of silver from her arms and handed it to Yu Heiran, brother, take the silver and give it to the shopkeeper when it arrives. The only thing is, you eat first, and I will pick up the clothes and buy them later. Yu Heiran tremblingly took the 5 taels of silver. He has never seen 5 taels of silver at such a young age, not to mention copper plates. With tears in his eyes, he choked and said, "Okay, Xiao Sier, don't walk in a hurry." Hey, poor baby Yuan shook her head. She vowed to make the family better. Who told her to be soft-hearted and let these children affect her old heart? Brother, don't be excited. We will still have money, white rice, houses, and fields in the future. Be good, wait for me at the inn, and take good care of the whole family. You are the eldest son, so you can't cry. No cowardly. Hey, let's drink some chicken soup. Yu Heiran suddenly heard what Xiao Sier said. It really made sense. He immediately wiped away his tears and straightened his chest. Well, big brother understands. Wow, what the little girl said makes sense. The coachman's eyes almost glowed green. Yuan saw the driver's look and said, "Oh, mother, stay away from this person from now on, or you will be punished and die." Ahem, uncle, drive, oh, hurry up. Yuan pulled the driver's sleeve to remind her. Oh, yes, yes, it will be dark if we don't leave. The coachman came to his senses and said, "Oh, I will definitely chat with the little girl more in the future." After listening to what she said just now, my whole body was full of energy. The carriage left, and Yuan followed the carriage, but she would come back. Several women washing things by the river all stretched their necks when they saw the people from the third house leaving in a carriage. Look, that's the third room of Yu Lao's family. I heard that he was purged and left the house. Tisk, 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 tisk. That old godly woman of Yu Yang family really knows how to torment her son and grandson. The number 1 gossip woman in Yujia village is Yahuang. Her family is a neighbor of Lao Yutu, and she is the same generation as Lao Yutu. She couldn't stand the behavior of Lao Yutu's family the most. Her son and grandson, whom she liked, were pampered without any limits, while those with whom she hated were teased without limits. She didn't even know what kind of people Lao Yutu and his family were, but of course Yuan coincided with her. "Why are you taking care of other people's housework?" Yu Ding couldn't stand Yuan's big mouth and yelled at her. "Family affairs? You are lucky. If you, Ding Gihua, meet such a mother-in-law, you will not be the same. I will cry to death." Mrsu Li continued, and she said to Mrsu Huang, "Aunt Huang, you are a mother-in-law, but you must not imitate it, ha ha ha. Go, make fun of your aunt. How could she be like Yu Yang, who treats her son as grass and daughter as treasure? Look, everyone is named Bao. From now on, Yu Yang will wait and enjoy the blessings. Ha ha ha." Mrsu Huan continued, "Look, some people will regret that day. That Xiao Sier is not a simple girl." When Yuan arrived in the town, it was already past the Shen hour and the Wei hour had passed the time of a stick of incense. She hid in a deserted place, took out the clothes package from the space, put it on her back, and walked to the inn. At the entrance of the inn, the 5 brothers and sisters Yu Heiran kept looking at the lobby door with anxious expressions on their faces. "Brother, the 4th sister is here. Go and help the 4th sister carry something." Xiaoliu saw his sister carrying something from a distance. Oh, Yu Heiran also took 2 steps out of the door. Sure enough, he saw Yuan carrying a baggage, and he immediately ran up. "Xiao Sier, let the elder brother carry it quickly." Yuan was walking when she saw Yu Heiran running towards her. Okay, she put down the baggage. Seeing that it was a piece of good material, Yu Heiran quickly caught it, for fear of putting it on the ground and getting dirty. "Have you eaten?" Yuan asked. "Well, eat it, keep what you have, The food in this inn is delicious, he said with a look of aftertaste. The two brothers and sisters entered the lobby. The shopkeeper was in front of the counter, holding an abacus in his hand. He saw Yuan coming and said, "The little girl is here? The waiter will send hot water upstairs later. Your brother has reserved the food." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, A Big Change. "Thank you, shopkeeper, for causing you trouble." She stopped in front of the counter, holding Xiao Wu in one hand and Xiao Lu in the other. The three brothers stood behind her. The brothers and sisters also followed Yuan's example and thanked the shopkeeper. Yu Heiran took the lead and went upstairs, followed by the brothers and sisters. Xiao Ser, 3 medium-sized rooms have been opened. Are they too many? After going upstairs and opening the door of a room, Yu Heiran asked Yuan very anxiously. Yuan shook her head and asked the brothers and sisters to sit down. "No, eldest brother has done a good job. Don't worry about eldest brother doing things in the future. As long as it is not harmful to our family, eldest brother will do it boldly. Don't worry, we are out of that wolf den. From now on, I won't go back and suffer that sin again. Life will get better." Yuan encouraged everyone to change their tempers. Yu Heiran's actions today made her very happy. "Hey, brother, I believe in Xiao Ser." Yu Heiran was a little embarrassed and kept rubbing his hands. He was afraid that his sister would dislike him for not doing well. "Brother, I told you that the fourth sister won't blame you, but you don't believe me." Xiao and Xiaoliu, the two remaining fans, believe their fourth sister the most. "Yeah, our little 5 and little 6 know the fourth sister best. You can take the clothes and go take a shower. The second brother will send them the clothes for parents and Xiaoqi. I will go and see them after dinner." Yuan opened the bag and took out the clothes inside to share with them. Xiao and Xiaolai were the happiest, holding their clothes and jumping up happily. The three brothers touched the new clothes very excitedly, as if they were cherished treasures. This, Xiao Ser, aren't these clothes expensive?" Yu Heiran looked at Yuan, and the three brothers were filled with tears. They had never seen such good clothes in their lives, let alone wearing them. Yuan felt particularly uncomfortable. How had the young boy ever been treated like this before? He was so excited about a new piece of clothing. "No, as long as we work hard, we will have a better life in the future. Don't get excited and don't be reluctant. Go take a shower and change. Let my sister see how handsome my brothers are." Yu Heiran nodded repeatedly. "Okay, let's go right away." Yu Hao and Yu Haoshan rarely said anything. Yuan and Xiaolai were left in the room. She saw a bowl on the table. She stepped forward and opened it. There were 2 vegetables, 1 soup, and a bowl of rice. She was indeed hungry. "Xiao Lu, do you still want to eat?" Xiao Lu was showing off her new clothes and touching her new shoes again and again. She suddenly heard Yuan ask her. The little girl shook her head. "Fourth sister, Xiaoliu is full." "Fourth sister, eat quickly." "Hey, Xiaoliu is so sensible." Yuan took out another fruit and handed it to Xiaoliu. Xiaoliu's eyes lit up. He took the fruit and gnawed it. While eating, he said, "Thank you, fourth sister. I'll give it to Xiaoliu after he earns money." Fourth sister buys fruit to eat? Well, it's good for the little girl to have such awareness, Yuan thought to herself. At present, it seems that the children are all good, not crooked, but a bit cowardly. The problem all lies with Yu Dahai and Feng. It seems that we need to talk to Yu Dahai carefully to avoid causing any trouble in the future. She finished her meal quickly, and then the waiter brought hot water. The two of them had only washed themselves at noon, but now they were washing very quickly. Fourth sister, you are so comfortable in what you are wearing. Does Xiaoliu look good? Xiaoliu put on her new clothes and wandered around the room, giggling happily. Yuan looked at Xiaoliu's happy expression, and the world of a child was so simple. Knock, 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 there was a knock on the door, and Yuan knew it was the four brothers Yu Heiran. Xiaolu immediately stepped forward and opened the door, and four people came in. Except for Xiaowu, the three of them had red faces and felt as uncomfortable as new wives. Puck, Yuan couldn't help but laugh. She was just wearing new clothes, as if she were meeting her parents-in-law. Well, as expected, my brothers are all dressed up like jade trees in the wind and are elegant and graceful. These words made the three brothers even more confused about where to put their hands and feet. Yuan saw that it was almost done. Oh, brothers, please calm down, you will wear this every day from now on, and hold your head high. Yuan patted the three of them on the back, and she held her head high. That's it, you know. As expected, the three of them held their heads high and held their chests high like Yuan, and even Xiao and Xiaoliu imitated them in a decent way. Yuan took a look at it and saw that it was more or less the same. She was wearing new clothes and had a vulgar look on her face, which made her look awkward. In this way, the whole temperament of the person is revealed. Yu Heiran is gentle, Yu Hao is cold, and Yu Haoshan is lively. Xiao will probably be a show-off in the future, and Xiaoliu is naturally cute. Well, that's good, keep it like this, let's go see our parents and Xiaoqi. Okay, Xiao and Xiaoliu were the first to rush out. 3 rooms are connected together. You can walk past the room where the 4 brothers live and it's next door. Yuan knocked on the door, and it was Yu Dahai who opened the door. At this time, he had already taken a shower and changed clothes, but he was too thin and his clothes were empty. My complexion is much better now than at noon. But his complexion is still sallow, with no flesh on his face, prominent cheekbones, sunken eye sockets, and dull eyes. Dad, the brothers and sisters shouted in unison, which made Yu Dahai, who had not yet recovered, believe that the pile of cleanly washed children wearing new clothes in front of him were his babies. He moved his mouth and said, "Okay," and immediately the tears couldn't stop rolling down. Upon seeing this, Yuan signaled Yu Heiran and others, who immediately stepped forward to help Yu Dahai. Yu Heiran, Dad, don't be sad, it will be fine in the future. Xiao and Xiaoliu, yes, Daddy, don't cry. The 4th sister is in trouble. From now on, we will have food and clothing. The 4th sister said we still have a house to live in. The 2 children chirped and hugged Yu Dahai and said no, stop. The brothers and sisters helped Yu Dahai sit down. Perhaps the children had infected Yu Dahai. His eyes finally had focus and life. He stroked the child's head and nodded repeatedly, yes, Dad knows, okay, okay. Yuan also walked up to Yu Dahai. Yu Dahai also looked at the beautiful daughter in front of him. His heart was filled with complicated feelings, and the most shocking thing was, I didn't expect that this daughter was so capable, better than his father. In the past, he always heard her clamoring to take the 3rd bedroom people out of the wolf den without family ties. He didn't believe it, didn't dare, and couldn't. Those are his parents, no matter what, they are the parents who gave birth to him. He believed that as long as he worked hard with his children, his parents would see it one day. Now that he has come out, but looking at the group of children in front of him, he is conflicted. The children are older and want to start a family. Who would dare to marry into the family if they have a reputation of being unfilial? Not to mention that now I have nothing and nowhere to go. Yuan didn't say anything. Of course she saw Yu Dahai's eyes looking at her were complicated, shocked, and then at a loss. She wanted him to slowly experience the shock that came to him every day when he came out of the old house. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 Feng's Abnormality. Yuan walked to the bedside, where Feng was twirling Xiaoqi's hair. The elder of the couple didn't even look at her, while the younger looked timid when she saw her. Yuan smiled gently at Xiaoqi. She knelt down, took out a piece of fruit and handed it to Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi, eat the fruit. Xiaoqi saw that she had eaten it in the afternoon. Her big eyes opened even wider, and her little hands came over to hold her. Yuan saw that his thin body was holding a big head, and she was worried whether it would fall off. She took out her dagger and cut it open for Xiaoqi, then took a piece and fed it to Xiaoqi's mouth. Xiaoqi swallowed it in a few mouthfuls and whispered in a soft voice, "It's delicious, Kuo." Yuan fed him another piece. When she gave it to him again, Xiaoqi took the piece and fed it to Feng's mouth. "Mom, eat it, the fruit is delicious." Yuan thought that Feng would not eat it, but unexpectedly Feng also ate it and nodded. Udahai and his son all saw the actions of the three mothers and were surprised. They all knew that their mothers had never stood up like they did today. Yuan didn't know this, she just assumed that she also liked to eat this fruit. She simply cut up a fruit and gave it to the two of them to eat, a rare opportunity. She cut some more fruits and brought some to Udahai and his son. Xiaoqi became more lively after this, she was no longer timid, and she could also call her sister Yuan. After everyone finished eating, they all sat down. At this time, Udahai spoke, "Big boy, little fourth boy, your grandma will definitely be very angry and nervous when we come out like this. Why don't we go back? Don't get angry with your grandma." Yuan was a little surprised. She rolled her eyes. This Udahai was not only stupid and filial, but also a brainless person. Like Yu Yang, he was a master who didn't remember to fight. "You are still angry, you are a ghost." His own life was almost destroyed by the Yu Yang family, but this was just enough, and he was about to be sent to his door again. Yu Heiran brothers' faces instantly lost their previous joy, and they all looked at Udahai in confusion. Xiao and Xiaoliu said angrily, "We won't be angry back." Then they all stood next to Yuan, shook their heads, and snorted. Yuan said angrily, "Dad, the deed of family separation has been written. This is a fact. Where does the anger come from? Have you risked your own life to relieve the anger? What? After the scar is healed, the pain will be forgotten. You just can't wait to go back and work for them. If you want to go back, I won't stop you. Also, whoever wants to go back can go back with Dad. But the ugly words are ahead, what will happen in the future? Son, I will definitely not care." When Xiao and Xiaoliu heard what Yuan said, they immediately cuddled up to her and shook their heads like a rattle. "We are following the fourth sister. We will have nothing to eat and will be beaten when we go back. We won't go back." Yuan touched the two little ones' heads and looked at Udahai. Seeing that Udahai remained silent for a long time, Yu Heiran grabbed the hands of Yu Hao and Yu Haoshan, stood behind Yuan, and mustered up his courage. "We will follow Xiao Sier and not go back. We will be separated. We have hands and feet. We are hungry, don't kill us." Yuan raised her eyes to look at the three brothers, all of them with firm eyes. Yuan felt that the three brothers had lived up to her good intentions. It is enough to show that they really have no nostalgia for Lao Yudu's family. "I would rather go out and live a life with no fixed place to live and no guarantee of 3 meals a day than go back. At least I will have a place to stay when I go back, and I will have enough food for a day. This is how deep the pain is." Udahai looked at the children in front of him with wide eyes. Xiao Sier was usually a bold person. She wouldn't listen to anyone and acted randomly all day long. He did not expect that none of his sons would listen to him. His eyes darkened. He had never disobeyed his parents in his life, no matter how much Yu Yang, the old man, beat him and scolded him. He had no other thoughts, let alone a separation. Those are the parents who gave birth to him and raised him. How can a child disobey his parents? Udahai couldn't accept it for a moment, he said, but they are your grandparents after all. Yuan immediately interrupted him, stop, I don't want to hear it. We can't control where you go, but if you leave, we will treat you as our father without you. It doesn't matter whether you are there or not. What we want is someone who can protect us, Dad, not the dad who pushed us into the pit of fire. Yuan was really speechless. After doing it for a long time, she still wanted to go back to find her parents, so she didn't care. She stood up and said, let's go back to the room. She got up, took the two children and left. At this time, a hoarse voice suddenly came, Xiao Sier, my mother is heartbroken. Yuan immediately turned around and saw Mrs. Feng muttering blankly, Xiao Sier, my mother is heartbroken. Yuan rushed forward, took Feng's hand, looked at her, and called softly, Mother, Mother. The three brothers, Xiao and Xiaoliu, all surrounded Fengshi. They all looked at Fengshi in disbelief. You looked at me and I looked at you. The three Yuhairan brothers immediately leaned against Feng and called softly, Mom, what's wrong with you? Ms. Feng finally felt something, and 2 tears fell from her eyes. Seeing this, Yuan thought thoughtfully, Feng's situation is wrong. It's a pity that she doesn't know medical skills. She understood what Feng said. She was expressing that she had feelings, that her heart ached when her children were being abused. Udahai was also looking at Feng in a daze at this moment, obviously he was also surprised. Yuan, Dad, was this the same when you picked up your mother? Udahai came back to his senses. He sighed and shook his head, it was much better back then, and I often said a few words. It's only in recent years that your mother has been like this. You haven't taken her to see a doctor. Well, your mother just doesn't speak. There's nothing wrong with anything else. No, I haven't seen it, Udahai said with an unnatural expression. What can Yuan say? She sighed deeply. I have no choice but to take Feng to Yongantang to see the doctor tomorrow. Pointing at this bun, I'm afraid it will be harder than climbing to the sky. Ms. Feng stopped mumbling now, as if she felt the children were around her. Yuan, brother, hold Xiaoqi in your arms and let mother sleep first. We will take her to see the doctor tomorrow. Yuhairan held Xiaoqi in his arms. Seeing how smoothly he held the child, Yuan knew that he had taken care of the child. Yuan gently stroked Feng's back, then laid her down and covered her with the quilt. Patting her gently like coaxing a child, Feng gradually closed her eyes, breathed steadily, and fell asleep. Yuan looked at Feng, who was sleeping. She had a standard 3-bedroom face and was as thin as a ghost. The brothers and sisters also looked at Fengshi. Even Xiaoqi didn't cry and nestled obediently in Yuhairan's arms, looking at Fengshi with his 2 big eyes. Xiaoqi, would you like to sleep with the 4th sister tonight? Yuan reached out to hug Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi nodded obediently. Yuan was sure that Feng was already asleep. She hugged Xiaoqi and said, Brother, let's go back to sleep. Yuhairan, yeah. End of this chapter.